going on, guys? Welcome back to this episode of Restorations with Vic. For today's project, we got a fun, unique one. These are Nike Force basketball sneakers from back in 1993. What makes these really cool is these are Salesman Sample. What's a Salesman Sample, you may ask? They're samples by Nike sent out to its retailers to promote upcoming releases. Typically, these are used by sales reps to show accounts what's coming. The coolest thing about these shoes is they never release this Olympic colorway to the public. However, this shoe is beat up. We gotta bring it back to life. So without further ado, let's get it started. To start this restoration, we're gonna put this shoe to the side for before and after purposes. Next, we're gonna focus on the cleaning. But first, we gotta take out our laces and insole. Yeah, that insole's not coming out. Now we're onto the shoe tree. This is gonna help us get rid of the creasing on the toe box. Now, before I start cleaning the shoe, there's a lot of surface dust on the tongue and a couple areas of the shoe. So I'm gonna grab my air gun and blow all this stuff off. Now for today's cleaning, we're gonna be doing things a little bit different. Usually I start on the uppers and work my way down to the soles. Today I'm gonna start with the soles and then work my way to the uppers. The reason being is because the main issue is the soles. It's super grimy, covered in dirt. Now let's grab our solution and squirt 2 squirts inside our bowl of water. So we're gonna start off with a stiff bristle brush. Soles are all cleaned up. That was the dirtiest part about this whole shoe, and I wanted to get that out the way first. Off camera, I grabbed some clean water for the uppers. As far as the uppers go, there are some delicate areas on the shoe. The swooshes has some cracking material. I don't want to make it worse than scrubbing that area, so I have to be very careful. Same thing with the tongues. It's made out of this weird vinyl material. It's not too bad right now, but if I press it or scrub in that area, it might start to flake. As far as the rest of the shoe goes, I'll be using the soft bristle brush very lightly. Now let's grab our solution and squirt 2 squirts inside our bowl of water. All done with the cleaning of the uppers, the white leather looks so much better now. I did a good job of not scrubbing on the swooshes to prevent more cracking. Next step, let's let them dry. We're back, we got the shoe fully dried and clean. One great thing about our solution is it has oils that can recondition the material and the leather. For example, before I cleaned the shoe up, the material on this leather was really dried out. Now it looks a lot better. Same thing with the rest of the white leather on the shoe. Now the next step we gotta work on is the yellowing. I don't fully want to get rid of the vintage vibe, but I do want to tone it down to a nice cream tone on the sole. So for this, we're going to put it in the Vick 2000. The great thing about that indoor setup is it has some really strong UV rays to the point that it could get some of this yellowing out without applying Store Revive. If I would have applied Store Revive, I would have probably got it a lot whiter than this, but this is the tone I was going for. That's how strong the UV rays are. Without Store Revive, I was still able to get some of this yellowing out. Now for the uppers, I want to keep the shoe as original as possible. I don't want to start taking paint all over the entire sneaker. For example, the tongues, there's slight cracking going on this material, but I don't want to go in and paint it. I want to keep it as is. Same thing with the swooshes on both sides. There's a lot of cracking going on in this material. I can't use leather filler simply because this material is so brittle. If I apply it in some areas, it'll just crack more in other areas. I'll do some slight touching up, but for the most part, I'm gonna leave it as is. I could also go in, remove the entire material and apply a new swoosh, but that's not the type of restoration I wanna do on this shoe. So right now what we're gonna do is, we're gonna grab some 400 grit and 600 grit sandpaper. There's a lot of these scratches throughout the entire white leather. Before we can repaint some areas, we're gonna sand it down to get it nice and smooth. We'll start off with the 400 and finish off with the 600. Leather is nice and smooth. We'll come back to that in just a bit. Right now we're gonna focus on the insides. There's a lot of lint balls throughout the entire sock liner. We gotta clean that up. One thing I wanna show you guys real quick is the inside tag. Like I mentioned, these are Salesman samples. The way I know that is by reading the inside tag. On the bottom, it reads Salesman Sample. Most of them is gonna read that somewhere on the tag. Let's go ahead and clean up these sock liners with our lint shaver. Sock liners came out nice and clean. We'll put the shoe to the side for a quick sec. Don't think I forgot about the shoelace. These are heavily frayed. There's heavy stains throughout the entire shoelace. We're gonna start off with a clean bowl of hot water. We're gonna put them inside. We're also gonna grab our solution, squirt a little bit inside. And we got a detergent pot that we're gonna drop inside and pop it. Then we're gonna let it sit overnight. Hopefully when we come back, we get some better results. Back to the uppers, we gotta finish up the prep work. We got some alcohol prep pads that I'm gonna go over the entire white leather to remove some dinginess and marks before we start repainting. Prep work on the leather is complete. We sanded it down and went over the entire thing with alcohol prep pads. Now we're gonna tape off everything but the white leather. We're gonna be very careful around the swooshes. The swooshes are cracking, like I mentioned. If I place tape on those areas, there's a good chance that material is gonna come up. So we're gonna be strategic in these areas. All done with the taping. This tape job isn't perfect by any means. The reason being is because throughout the entire edge of the sole, there's these yellow glue marks that a lot of original sneakers have. I don't want to paint over that, so I made sure to cover all that up. Also, another thing that I'm gonna do is work on one panel at a time. For example, I'm gonna start off with this front toe cap piece, but I'm gonna tape off everything around that. That means taping off this leather cut on both sides and the stitching. Like I mentioned, I don't want to just start caking paint all over the shoe. I just want to make it look a lot better and cover up all these old scuffs. For this, we'll be using some white paint that's been toned down with one little drop of brown paint. Making some progress. We got 3 of the panels done, 4 more to go. All done with the airbrushing. Took a little finesse to get it to this point, but it looks really good. Now, the last step we gotta do on this paint job with a small detail brush, we're gonna go in all over the edges and make this paint job a bit more crispy, just because the airbrush did not hit any of those areas. White is completely done. The last step we gotta do on these uppers is touch up the swooshes. I'm not gonna overdo it. I'm just gonna touch it up on the edges to make it a little bit more crispy. Paint job's complete on the uppers. This is probably my best repaint yet on a vintage shoe. The reason being is because you can't even tell that it was painted. One tip that I want to share with you guys is, when I was laying down the white paint, after about 7 or 8 coats, I would sand it down using 1000 grit sandpaper. After that, I would finish it off with one final coat of white paint. That would give me these nice, buttery, perfect results. The shoe doesn't even feel painted. Another thing that I did was, I taped off all the original glue marks throughout the entire sole to keep that original vibe on the sneaker. And I taped off the stitching and the leather cuts to keep this paint job as professional as possible. And lastly, I touched up both swooshes with the perfect mixed paint without overdoing it. For the most part, this shoe's complete, but we still gotta work on the shoelace. The shoelace, we let it sit in solution and detergent for about 24 hours. When I took it out, I rinsed it. It came out really good, but there was some dinginess still going on. So I put them in the Vick 2000 for another 24 hours. When I got it back, I got these great results. Right now, the lace is pretty frayed up throughout the entire thing. So we're gonna shave it, and then after that, we're gonna iron it using a little mini iron. Alright guys, that is going to bring us to an end on this full restoration on these 1993 Salesman Sample Driving Force Nikes. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I wanted to take a different approach for this restoration. I could have easily gone in, taped up the entire sneaker, and cake on white paint on all the white panels, but that's the easiest way to know if a shoe's been restored. You will see all the paint throughout the entire leather cut or the stitching. You would also be able to feel it if you don't sand it down. For this shoe, you get none of that. I could have also gone in and applied Store Vibe to the entire sole and got it back to that brand new white, but I didn't want to get rid of that 1993 look. We also went in and gave the shoe a proper deep clean inside and out using RESHOEVN8R products. Before I cleaned the shoe, the leather was really dried out. Same thing with the material on the tongue. Afterwards, once it was all cleaned up, the material got a lot softer and conditioned. And lastly, the laces also required a lot of work. When I took them off, they were super coiled up, beat, dirty, full of lint. We cleaned them up using solution and detergent, put them in the Vick 2000 and got them back to that brand new white. We ironed, shaved them, and now we're able to keep the original lace for this shoe. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Vic Almighty. I'll catch you guys next Monday. See you guys.